straight into it. Okay, so usually when you turn up to a company as a new fresh sales rep, they give you a thing called a product playbook. Now what a product playbook is, essentially it's for every line of business they have. For every product they tell you how to sell it, essentially. So you'll have things like, you'll have verticals, which is the industries you're going to target, for example, local government or higher education, that kind of thing. The other thing they'll have is titles. Right? So just like when we do lead gen, we have titles. That's the titles you want to target. What they also have is messaging. So for each title, they have what is the message for that particular, so you could be targeting multiple titles in that organization and they'll have different messages. Okay, so what else is there? There's also what we did, which was implied and explicit needs, which is tied into messaging. So you can only decide what to message when you know what you think the implied and explicit needs are. You'll also have what we, well, you often don't have, but what you should have is what we developed, what we started to develop, was the spin questioning lines. And this is often missing, even in very well developed sales processes in companies. Because I mean, it's all good to have this, implied and explicit needs, but the process to go from implied to explicit needs is quite, it's quite lengthy and complicated as we started to go into it. You could see that.
Exactly.
So that's what a product playbook should have. And that's critical. That's where someone can get up and running within a month as opposed to 6 months.
Okay.
That's important. The other thing is competitive landscape. So competitors, and of course, how our product is different. Okay, so what does that mean for ITEL? This is the kind of thing you've got to start thinking about, right? It doesn't have to be a product playbook, but if you ever want to take on new sales staff and get them up and running quickly, even your inside sales, if you're doing marketing campaigns, even just messaging for your own. So if you want to develop a new product, right? Let's say we want to do events. We want to do a movie event, that's a new product. Well, this is the kind of thing you have to do, right? What verticals are we targeting? What titles? What are the implied and explicit needs? What's the messaging around it? If there's a sales person around it or inside sales, you want to have this as well. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Why we had a lot of things is because we have a lot of products, right? But if you're looking at one product, it's actually not that bad. You may have 2 or 3 questioning lines. It's not that complicated. And this is important. Competitors, differentiators, right? That's just normal. You want to know who else is doing it, what are they doing, how are they doing it, and how are we different. So that's what you need to do before you even go out there. It's the marketing and the sales. It's the product playbook. So that's important. Into the market and you start selling these products. And that's when all the things we talked about, sales meetings, tactical sales, all of that comes into play. But at a certain point of time, you've got a bunch of deals sitting in your pipeline. So once you have, if you don't have enough deals that you can't, okay, let me put it this way, if you don't have enough deals, you just got to chase all of them down. At a certain point, you'll have a lot of deals, and you'll actually have to go, I only have X amount of hours in the day, I have this many deals, how do I choose? How do I pick which ones to go for, right? So that comes to the question, the most important question you should always ask yourself as a salesperson, can I win? Right? So if you can't win, why are you competing? Why are you wasting time? If you've got 5 deals, and 3 of them you can win, 2 of them you can't, obviously you want to go for the 3. But it's not that clear. This question is not clear, as you well know, right? Sometimes you've got deals you think you're not going to win, you win. Sometimes you've got deals you're sure you're going to win and you don't win. So the trick is, how can you determine before it actually happens, right? So that's what we're going to go into today. So can I win? So what we're going to go into is a thing called battle plan. It's a methodology just like spin, right? Where we're going to do the really cut down version of battle plan. But if you ever want to learn more about spin, you read the spin book. If you ever want to learn more about battle plan, there's not really a book per se, but it's a well-known. You can do courses on battle plan.
Oh, okay.
It exists out there. Okay. So how do you evaluate a deal? And what they call it is the DNA of a deal, right? It's the strands that make up a deal. What is important to actually know and evaluate on a deal? So any deal, you want to have there's about 12 things in battle plan. So DNA is usually 12, criteria, but we're only going to do the critical 4, evaluating a deal, right?
Yep.
So actually, let's start at the beginning. The things you must know: timing. Timing is critical, right? Okay, what do I mean by timing? You want a date. When is it going to close by? Right?
Yeah.
More important than the date, right? Because the date means absolutely nothing. It's the compelling mechanism that gets you to that date. There's no point having a date. Oh yeah, we want it done by this date. Well, why do you need it done by that?
Yeah.
Oh, no reason. It's just a date. That's not a compelling mechanism.
No.
That's just a date I've picked out of the air, and that means it can easily slide months and months out. So that's not the real date. You've got to keep probing. If you ask me what the date is, I said, oh yeah, we have to get this campaign done by the end of the year.
Why? Because budgets are been allocated, otherwise we're going to lose the budget or something.
Yeah, well, it has to be a compelling
need to probe.
mechanism. If they go, oh, look, yeah, that's just the date we've got, then you have to probe. You have to go, well, okay, let's say it slips out. Let's say we can't get it done till January. Is that okay? Oh yeah, that's fine. Or they might go, no way, can't do that. If it slips past January 5, then blah, 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 we lose this budget, etc. So find the real
Date.
Right? Not the date they give you, the real date, which is the one that has a compelling mechanism. Value.
Yeah.
So, spell value. That would help. So, 2 things. Measurable.
I can never know how many teams.
Yeah, I like measurable, right? Measurable is usually ROI. The dollar values around it, the company financials. You want to have it all in perspective, right? You want to have a good grasp of that. Now, obviously, these kind of things, the amount of time you go into developing this for each deal, it depends on how big it is, right? Obviously, if it's a tiny little deal, you might do it in your head. Tick it off, right?
Yeah.
If it's a deal that's worth considerable value, you may actually want to sit down and write this down. And as a manager, you want to know your salesperson's done this. For deals that are really important.
Really
Right? For little deals, you just do it in your head. Right? Measurable, and the other thing is sexy. That's qualitative, right? What does it hit hot buttons? Right? Is there something in that deal that someone gets excited over? Or is it just, oh yes, it's ROI, it's oh yes, it does this and that? Or is it like, yeah, we're launching our new cloud and it's sexy and it's hot and it's great, right?
Yeah.
So value's not just on the figures, right? Value is also the value to the organization emotionally, or just how sexy it is, right? Okay, so that's important. You need both. You need measurable and sexy. If it's just measurable, if it's sexy, then people are going to drive it along. Support. Support is critical. Support is, do you have someone in the organization that can sell on your behalf? Because you can't always be there, right?
Yeah.
You may be there like 1 hour, a week. But then there's someone has to be there selling on your behalf. So, who sells for you? Are they capable? I mean, if your supporter is a retard, how's that going to help you?
It's not.
You know, in the organisation, they have to be capable.
Yeah.
You know, are they credible? You know, how are they considered in the organisation? Right? And most importantly, do they have access to the power base? Now it's great if you can have direct access to the power base, but often you're working with supporters that don't. But you want them to have access to the power base. It's important to know the power base yourself. And also, do you understand your supporters' personal agenda? That's important. What do they want out of it? What do they want out of their organisation? What do they want out of this deal? What is this deal going to bring to them? You know, at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff just comes back to personal agendas.
Personal agenda of the other company.
No, of the supporter.
The
support person, right? The people that support you in that organisation. Right? Okay. Because if you may have all these things, but you may not be talking to the right person. You may not have supporters in that organisation. Because it's all great to say, oh yeah, I've got people in the power base, but you don't always. When you start a new deal, you won't have necessary access to people in the power base, but you do need people that are influencers that can actually get access to the power base. So really, at the end of the day, you know, you can get rid of all this and say, is your supporter an influencer? Right? Is he an influencer? Do you want to just keep it simple? Do you know the power base? Do you know who's in the power base? More importantly, does the power base want you to win? Right?
How would you know if the power base wants to win?
Well, that's the thing, right? That when you develop a deal, you've got to find people in the power base, right? And if you don't have access to the people in the power base, you've got to. That's why it's critical for your supporters to be influencers, because then they have access to the power base. They can go looking for you to find out if the power base wants you to win. Because the power base doesn't want you to win. If you don't have political support for your deal, you won't get it through.
So the political is where?
Political is power base.
Oh, it's in the power base.
You know, we talked about power base.
Okay.
Right? It's different. Like support and political is different because your supporter may not be in the power base. If you can combine these two, if your supporters are in the power base, then you know, then all you need is these two, and it's going to happen. Right? It's not always going to happen, right? Because you know, we talked about decision makers. Sometimes the decision makers don't know whether they are going to make a decision in this particular case. So you need other things as well. Right? That's when you need to understand. So say you had the support of a GM or someone, a CIO in a company. Therefore, these two, fantastic. You've got the power. You know the power base. Power base wants you to win. They got support. But imagine if you don't understand this, and they don't understand this, and they think they can make a decision. But when it gets to the crunch, they're like, oh, the investor's going to. Right? So, number one, you may have misunderstood what the power base was, because maybe the CIO is not the one pulling the strings. And you may not have understood this, right? The value, the ROI, the dollars, the company finance. On the big picture, it may not make sense. Or it just could be timing, just keeps slipping out. Timing is important because, right, when you make a forecasting call, it's to a quarter. So if your timing keeps slipping out, your forecasting calls get pushed out, and then there's lots of problems. Okay. So this is the DNA of it, right? DNA of the deal. And you should always know, you should be able to answer this on any deal.